So the very, very famous story, beautiful, crazy story. It was a story of a very, very rich man who, no, it's fine. A very, very rich man who started to lose all his money, and he went to a big Rebbe, a big tzaddik, and he said to the tzaddik, he said, I used to be the richest guy in town, and the most famous guy in town, and I have no money left, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. I had 2 boats of schayra of stuff. They sunk to the bottom of the sea. I planted gardens and wheat. It all died. He says, I need help. The Rebbe says, okay, come back in 30 days. I'll see what I can do for you. Those 30 days, everything he had collapsed. He mamish did not have food for his family, food to eat or anything to drink. He had nothing. He was starving. He comes back to the Rebbe. He says, Rebbe, you got to help me. I'm dying. My family's dying. We're starving. So the Rebbe said, sit down. He said, you made a wedding like 3 years ago for your daughter? He says, yeah. He says, the Rebbe says, do you remember the wedding? He says, yeah. He says, do you remember the chuppah? When you were standing with your daughter under the chuppah? He says, yeah. The Rebbe says, let me tell you what happened. He said, there was a poor man who came to the wedding, and the food wasn't being brought out until after the chuppah. That's what they used to do. There was no food before. Right after the chuppah, they break the glass, everybody would go to the meal. So the food wasn't put out yet. He said, in the middle of the chuppah, see if you remember this. A poor man came over to you. He was standing by the chuppah, and you were standing next to your daughter. And he said to you, could you do me a favor? Could you give me a shmek tabik? Can you give me a little, because I'm very, very hungry, and I feel like I'm going to faint, and I need something to smell. Do you remember what you told him? He says, no. He says, you told him, listen, I'm under the chuppah. Now's not the time for this. When I finished, don't you see I'm under the chuppah with my daughter? I mean, we're in the middle of Kedushin. We're calling up the next rabbi to make a bracha. Wait 5 minutes, right? Wait 5 minutes till it's over, 10 minutes till the chuppah is over. Now they sing, what's it called, for 20 minutes, but it used to be the whole chuppah wasn't that long. He says, and I'll give you to eat, I'll give you a shmek tabik, whatever you need. Wait! He says, the Rebbe says, you know what happened? That poor man walked away. And he went outside, and he looked up to Shemayim, and he said to Hashem, Hashem, what is wrong with you? I am one of your creatures that you created. For whatever reason, Hashem, you decided that I'm such a low creature. This is what this person said to Hashem. I'm this low creature that I have to go beg for food. But am I that low? Am I that disconnected? Hashem, do you not care about me so much that I couldn't even get a shmek tabik? A pinch of snuff? I don't deserve. I understand you're not giving me food, but you're not even going to give me a pinch. And he fainted. And he fainted. And they woke him up, and they gave him to eat, and he left. He said that day, after he cried like that to Hashem, Hashem said that because you did this to him, and you wouldn't even give him a pinch of snuff, all your money is going to go to him. So there's a town, and he told him the name of the town. And he said, if you go to that town, look up Yankel Schwartz and ask him for his story. This guy who didn't have nothing goes to the town, starts asking around. Yankel Schwartz. Yankel Schwartz is the guy, the biggest house on the top of the mountain with the beautiful. So he says, how did Yankel Schwartz make this money? They said, you have to know something. Yankel Schwartz, 3 years ago, was the poorest man in the town. And he started this little business, and he said, He's now the richest man in the province. So he knew that he had gotten to the right man. So he wanted to meet him. So he goes to the house. Now he's the poor man. And he comes and he opens the door and he says, "Can you help me?" He says, "Sure." And he sits him down. He gives him to eat, whatever it is. And he says, "I hear that you became very rich. You were very poor. When did this happen?" He says, "Oh, about 3 years ago. I invested in this. I did this. I started this. I started that. I found gold, this, whatever it was." He mamish saw that this man had all his money. So he goes back to the Rebbe. He says, "Rebbe, what do I do? How do I get back my money?" The Rebbe says, "Only one way you can get back your money. When this Yankel Schwartz makes a wedding for his daughter, you go up in the middle of the chuppah and ask him for a shmek tabik. And if he doesn't give you, he will lose all his money and it will all go back to you." So, this guy moves into the town because he wants to wait to see how old this guy's kids are. And his mazel, a year after he's in this town, he's mamish a poor man, he's collecting, he has nothing. He's in rags, he has nothing. There's a sign on the wall, Mazel Tov, Yaakov Schwartz's daughter, Rivka, getting married in 2 weeks, whatever it is. This guy's like, perfect. I'm going to wait, mamish, to the busiest point of the chuppah, that's when I'm going to hit him. So, 2 weeks later, they get the chuppah, Yaakov Schwartz is standing there with his daughter, mamish, big wedding, lavish, everything, and they're in the middle of reading the ksuva, and this guy figures that's the time to ask him for a shmek tabik. He walks over, the guy's in the middle of reading the ksuva, the rabbi, he walks over to him, he says, he's very poor in rags, he says, "Excuse me, sir, could I just get a shmek tabik?" And Yaakov Schwartz looks at this poor man, puts his hands into his pocket, and comes out with 4 of these, 4 containers. He said, "Well, I have mint, I have lemon, I have strawberry, and I have cherry. Which one would you like?" And the poor man faints straight out. It's a true story. Faints straight out. And everyone comes running. It's the middle of the chuppah. Everyone comes running. They're starting pouring. And he's bending down and he's saying, "Yeah, what happened? Why'd you faint?" Whatever it is. He's like, "Oh, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this happened." And he I guess he gets something to eat. He leaves. He comes back to the Rav. The Rav says, "I can't help you. It was the same moment, and he passed the test. Not only did he pass the test, but he came out with 4 of them, 4 different flavors." The Rav said, "But if you go and you ask him mechila and you tell him the whole story, maybe he'll daven for you. And if he davens for you..." Anyway, the end of the story ends up very interesting. The end of the story ends up that he goes back and he tells him the whole story. And he's, of course, Michael him, and he remembers how he was screaming at Hashem in the whole story. And he gives him a loan. And in the end, it says, it's brought down, I forgot who the Rebbe was, to look it back up. In the end, they became partners, and they both were very rich. That's how the story ends. Maisa, Ashmek Tabik. You got to be careful when someone needs your help to give him attention, even when it looks like the smallest thing, because Mavir and Ezraya Hagzera. You never know what that shmek tabik. I'm just giving you an example of shmek tabik. I need a quarter. Can I borrow your cell phone? I'm busy. I'm in the middle of a chuppah. What do you want? My cell phone? I can't. No. You never know what's going to happen. But that person's going to walk away and say, "What am I, Hashem? I can't even make a phone call. You took everything away from me. I don't have anything." So you have to be very, very, very careful on how we treat someone else, because Mavirin is Roya Hagzera. If you don't treat him right, then the Gzera that's on him may come on to you. The person has to be very, very careful when somebody else needs something from him.